Hey guys, thanks for joining me for an episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called Alchemical Crystal Bat Cup. This is the second game from Mythical Games. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly an hour to an hour and a half to play, depending upon the track you've chosen and the number of laps you wish to do. And this is also a competitive game, so all the players are working against each other to be the first to cross that finish line during the final lap. So in the game itself, the easiest way I can say this is that it is a Mario Kart meets Demolition Derby / street racing. And the reason why I say that is obviously this game takes place in the same universe, so you have the fantasy setting of goblins and elves and that racing around in these little go-karts and even like a little banana machine and all kinds of crazy little zany things. And they're going to be using all kinds of different weapons, whether it be bombs or bazookas, thumbtacks and spike traps and all kinds of different manners of things to wreak havoc on their opponents, whether it's popping tires or doing damage to their bodies or pushing them into holes and all kinds of things just to basically get ahead and win the race. And the other reason why I'm saying that it is more like a street racing / demolition derby is that you also have to be careful and manage your car or your go-kart or whatever you're riding around in. You're going to select the tires that you wish to take at the beginning of the game, as well as the number of brake and nitro points that you're going to have, which will allow you to slow your vehicle down during curves or boost it up with the nitro on different things to gain additional movement points and whatnot. And you're also going to have to be careful about the amount of damage you take, as each body part, whether it's the two sides, front or rear, as those take damage, you won't be able to use certain weapon types that use those different points to fire out of. So it's really interesting, and it's an interesting dynamic and mix for the players as you're just going around and trying to do as much damage as you can, but also trying to take as little as you can so that you can be as effective on the track as possible. So my opinions of this game so far are very good. I've had a really good time with it, and I definitely would recommend it to any group that is into competitive games, or anybody that grew up and really enjoying Mario Kart and has been waiting for a game that has a similar feel to that on the tabletop, as this one I feel does really capture that very well. So other than that, like I said, you have all those different things you're managing. Each turn, the players are going to select from one card from 3 cards secretly, and then they're going to reveal those cards and take the actions on them and select one of the weapons, if they're able to use against their opponents. From there, this is going to continue until the players have passed that finish line based on the number of laps you've chosen. So other than that, like I said, this is a game that I would recommend, especially if you guys are interested in these kind of things. If you're not into competitive games, I might stay away from this one, just because if you're not really playing competitively, then you're not really embracing the actual spirit of this game. And if you're not playing in a group that can handle that, this one might be one that you would avoid. Other than that, like I said, if this is a game that you guys are interested in, check this out. I'm going to go through all the different special features of this game that makes it unique. And then I'm also going to have a gameplay video taking you through a good portion of the turns at the beginning, middle, and end of the game, so you guys can see it in action and see if this is a game that you're interested in backing. So other than that, if you guys like these videos, if you enjoy what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it will help me to continue to bring new and exciting games to you guys, and you get to stay up to date on all the videos that I do. So other than that, let's go ahead and head to the table, and I'll show you what this is all about. So the first thing we're going to look at are the player boards themselves. And before going into this, again, this is all prototype material. These are going to look better when you guys get them. Some of the tokens and cards and things may change as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through this stuff. So then at the top of the player board is the player's name and the artwork for that player. We have their brake and boost sections and the little go-kart itself. It shows its orientation and the 8 different slots for the different items. So first off, at the beginning of the game, the players are going to receive their 2 doors and their front and back bumpers. The players are also going to receive 10 crystals that they can use on various things to improve their cart that they're going to purchase at the beginning of the game. You can choose to spend either 2 or 4 crystals on tires. If you spend 2 crystals, you're going to get soft tires, which will let you get 1 token of each tire a piece, and this is going to have a very specific effect on how you drive. So this is a very important decision for the players on whether they want to have soft tires or hard tires. If they want hard tires, again, that's going to be 4 crystals, so they're going to be more expensive, but you'll receive 2 tokens in each of the sections. So your tires are going to last a little bit longer, but they're also going to have another effect, as you guys are going to see in a couple minutes. So with our player, we're going to go ahead and go with soft tires. So it's going to cost us 2 crystals, and these will go back in the tire slots. And then we can spend the rest of our crystals on either brakes or boost or a combination of those. So with us having soft tires, I'm going to go ahead and spend 5 on our boost. So we'll get 5 tokens, and that is the maximum number of boosts we can have. And I'll go ahead and spend the other 3 on some brakes. Then each player is also going to receive 2 thumbtacks and 1 set of spikes. They're also going to get their little miniature and a custom deck of 22 cards that'll have all kinds of different effects on them, as you guys are going to see in a minute. Moving over to the player's cards now, each card is broken into 2 halves. On the first half of a card is going to list the stress limit for that card, which you're going to get to see what that does in just a couple minutes, and the amount of movement spaces that player can move based on the number of tires they still have. So if a player still has all 4 tires, they get to move 6 spaces with this card. And as they lose tires, they'll be able to move less with this card. So down to, if they've lost 3 tires, then they can only move 3 spaces. On the other side of a card is the 3 weapons that player will have access to this turn. During the turn, they're going to select one of these weapons to use on the other players. And they can do this either before moving, after moving, or any time in between. And each weapon is going to list the type of weapon, the range that weapon has with this card, and the areas that you can attack out of with that weapon. So with the rocket launcher, you can only attack out of your front or rear, and it must be functional. So if you've taken damage in your front bumper or rear bumper, you cannot use the rocket out of that side. Then we have the Flamethrower, which has a maximum range of 3 spaces, can be used out of the rear and out of the right side of your vehicle, or the boxing glove, which can be used out of the left or rear. And each card is going to have different weapon types and different ranges. Even for the same weapons, different cards will have different values or different areas they can fire them from. Now, you'll also have a special boost card, which only can be used once per lap. This card will give you armor all the way around your vehicle for the rest of the turn and will allow you to move based on the weather conditions that are active during your activation of your player. So obviously with it being super sunny out, you get to move up to 12 spaces, and if it's snow conditions, you'll get to move the least amount with 9 spaces. And this, as you can see, has no effect on whether you have 1 tire or all 4 of your tires. And we'll take a look at the seasons in just a minute as well. Moving over to the board itself, there's going to be a number of features based on the board that you've selected. And in the core set, there's going to be a number of boards that are going to be double-sided, so you're going to have a bunch of different tracks to choose from as well. So first off, at the beginning of the game, you're going to set the weather conditions. So you're going to shuffle up the weather cards and draw one of those to be the effects of that for that particular day. So here we have sunny conditions, so we would grab all of the sun tokens, shuffle them up, and place 1 on each of the turn stress markers. Once all the tokens are out, you're going to go ahead and flip those over, and these are going to be the stress limits for those turns. And as you guys can see, I'm only using half a board, so you're only going to get some of that. So what this is going to do is, as your player goes, if they enter a turn, they must resolve the stress of that turn based on the card that they've played. So for example, with our player here, if we played this card, our maximum stress going around a curve is 5. So if our curve here was lower than that, it would cause us to slide and reverse our vehicle, losing the rest of our movement. Now we can use brakes to lower our stress threshold so that these numbers line up. And again, like I said, that's where the importance of your tires comes in. If you've chosen soft tires, you can add +1 to that result, reducing the stress on the number. So let's go with a harder stress card. Let's go ahead and say, for example, that we have chosen... Let's go ahead and say we had this, and instead of this being an 8, it was a 6. So in this situation here, since we've played a stress of 8, if our vehicle goes in here, it's going to have to use brake, or it's going to wipe out and have to be reversed. So in order to do this, first off, since we've gone with soft tires, we get to increase the stress limit of this 1 point. So now this would be a 7. So we're only over by 1 point. So we can use one of our brake tokens and reduce this down to 7, in which case at that point, like I said, with the tires that we have and the brake that we've used, we can freely navigate this turn now. Now, in your turn, if you've already started in a turn, then you don't have to worry about this. It's only turns you enter during your turn using the card that you have. So if you enter multiple turns, you're going to use this reference each time you enter one of those turns. Now, if we would have had hard tires, we would have had to spend an additional point of brake, as the hard tires do not give us that bonus. Other than that, each track is going to have different conditions on it that are going to affect our players. They're going to have holes that our players can be pushed into, which will cause damage to our vehicles. They're also going to have slime parts and oil slicks and all kinds of different effects that are going to affect the players. Also, each time a player crosses a repair line or a finish line, you're going to go ahead and reset your weather conditions by reshuffling your cards and choosing a new weather condition, replacing all of the tokens with that condition, unless it's the same one, in which case then you're just going to keep the same tokens out there. The last thing we're going to look at is using the weapons and some of the different effects of those. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and throw out another driver, and we're going to go ahead and move him up on the field a little bit. So at the beginning of each player's turn, or at the beginning of the round, each player is going to draw 3 cards from their deck. They're going to look at these cards secretly and choose one of these cards that they wish to use for this turn. So let's go ahead and say that we'll use this card. So we'll place this face down. The other 2 cards can be discarded into the discard pile. And then during the turn, all the players are going to reveal their card and resolve their effects in order based on where they are within the track. So with our red player being in front of our blue player, he would resolve his effects first, and then would go on until each player has resolved their effects. So during the blue player's turn, again, they get to move based on their number of tires. So our blue player has all her tires, so she can move up to 8 spaces. And then she's going to choose one of these weapon types to use during the turn. So for example, let's go ahead and say that our blue player is going to move first. So she's going to move diagonally. In order to move diagonally, it's going to cost her 2 points of movement. So that's 2, 3, 4. Then she's going to go ahead and use her potion, which allows her to move or to exchange places with another driver that's at least up to 4 spaces in front of her. And it is also going to be based on as long as her front bumper is not damaged. So her front bumper is good, so she can use it. So she's going to exchange places with that driver, and then she can continue on moving. So she has 4 movement points left. So 1, 2, and then she's going to enter this turn. As we already talked about, she's going to have to slow down. So she'd have to spread one of her brake cubes, and she does have those soft tires. So that will let her to move into that curve. Now the next turn that she goes, since she's already in the curve, she's not going to have to worry about resolving the stress effects of that curve, only if she enters another one down the road. Looking at some of the other weapons, we have the tacks, which each player will have 2 thumbtacks that they'll be able to use throughout the game. So with the earlier example of this card here, she could have tossed one of these thumbtacks out of one of her diagonal spaces or out of one of the tire spaces, as long as that tire's good, and she would just place it on the field. And if a player drives over that, then they're going to pop one of their front tires, if they have any. Otherwise, it would have to be one of their back. Now, we also have spike traps, which you'll place out 3 spike traps. You only get 1 of these per game, and it would go out in a row like that. Or you could have it like this, however you want. And if a player drives over it, they're going to remove the spike trap, all 3 of them, and it's going to pop their 2 front tires or 2 tires total, whether it's the front tires or 1 front, 1 back, or both back, depending upon what they have. And if a player ever has all of their tires popped, they are out of the game. Now there are ways to repair as you move through the repair spaces, which are throughout each track. And when you cross the finish line, you can also repair and use any crystals you have gathered during the game to purchase additional brake and boost cubes. And each break cube will let you break 1 point on stress, and each boost cube will allow you to move an additional point of movement. So our blue player up here could have spent another blue cube or a green cube to move an additional space on the track. Well, I hope this video helped you guys decide whether or not you want to back this game. I would recommend it, especially if you're into Mario Kart meets real world effects. This is definitely a game that will meet those needs and satisfy you as a player. This is also an excellent game as a competitive game if you love beating up your other players, just causing all kinds of mayhem and damage and unexpected effects. This one is a lot of fun, as you just never know all the way up to that last play turn whether or not you're going to have enough to make it through the finish line. Crazy things happen in this game. Players are going to be moving around and exchanging spots with other players. So definitely recommend checking this one out. And if you guys have any questions, leave those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And or swing by the creators Kickstarter page, let them know what you guys are thinking, if you guys like the game, if not. And I'd also love to hear your guys' thoughts on whether or not you want to back this game, if this is one that looks interesting to you, or if not, why. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that as well. If you're not backing, let me know in those comments below why not. Love to hear from you guys. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.